So I guess you're wondering by now what President Trump was thinking when he sent out that bombshell of a tweet this afternoon targeting certain elements of Congress that if they're not happy with this country, then they can just leave. Just want to let you know that this was not a haphazard notion here, but yet it was a targeted methodology to what he was trying to do. There's 6 things that he was trying to accomplish here. I'm going to talk about that. I'm also going to talk about the tweet itself and what it has to do with the Democrats and their ability to stay on message and how difficult it is for them to do that. And we're going to start right now. Hi, I'm Kyle, and welcome to my channel where we take culture, TV, and movies, and we filter it right. If this is your first time here, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. And like I said in my intro, Trump sent out a massive bombshell of a tweet today. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what the implications are and that there were 6 things that he was trying to do in succession to get back on message for himself, for his campaign in 2020, and to also throw the Democrats back into chaos. And we're going to talk about that right now. And I'm going to bring the tweet up right now. Here it is. All right, I'm going to read it. It says, "We will never be a socialist or a communist country. If you are not happy here, you can leave. It is your choice and your choice alone. This is about love for America. Certain people hate our country." Okay, so with that being said, Lindsey Graham had made a comment earlier saying that certain elements of Congress, I believe what they call the squad, I'll give it that a little bit, but the freshman congresswomen mostly, who he considered are communists. Now, Trump went ahead and doubled down on this statement. He didn't say necessarily that the communist thing he agreed with, but he definitely agreed with the socialist comment. And so the first thing that happened with this, and we have to go back a little bit. Okay, so last week you probably remember that AOC and Nancy Pelosi got into a heated battle over ideology. In a nutshell, AOC was mad at Pelosi because she was siding with the Republicans and so forth. What Pelosi was trying to do was this. She understands that right now the Democrats are laying themselves in bed with the left radical wing of their party at a mainstream of the mass population of Americans. So what she was trying to do, and she's trying to play both sides, and she's walking a very thin line on this. What she's trying to do is placate her base, which is really vocal, but also win an election in 2020. And so she actually helped with the funding with the emergency spending bill with the Republicans. So she came across the aisle a little bit to do that. Of course, the media didn't report that because that would pretty much make the radical base even more furious. So what was happening is that the party itself, the Democrat Party, is moving to the left so much that they're starting to wag the dog, them being the tail. And that is not what Pelosi wants because she understands politics very well. She understands how to raise money. She understands all of this stuff. The downward ballots, the purple congressmen and women who won in 2018, they're volatile. They need to be protected, and they can't go out of their constituency so much so that they could actually lose their elections, and therefore they could lose the House. And that'll take everyone out of power. And so that's what Nancy's trying to do. And so what ended up happening was she ended up siding with AOC and actually coming to their side and defending them and trying to bring the party together. Trump saw this really quickly, and this tweet went out, as you see, at 2:08 p.m. today. And so the first thing he was trying to do was that as Nancy was trying, this is the first step in 6. Nancy was trying to bring the party together, and she was trying to distance herself away from the socialist fringe of the party. So she knew that AOC and those guys were running one way. So she was trying to push the party the other way towards the mainstream people. That's a very smart move. Now, of course, AOC didn't care. She was screaming and ranting, and that got some coverage. But at the end of the day, people saw Nancy trying to cross the aisle. Trump's first attempt at this was to defend Pelosi by saying she is not a racist. Okay, by siding with Pelosi on this, I think he was hoping that people would come at him negatively, but there was nothing really they could say in that regard. See, what Trump's trying to do is he's trying to keep that wedge between the radical side and the somewhat moderate side, which really isn't that moderate, but by comparison, away from each other. And if he can keep the mainstay Democrats moving more to the left and defending themselves, defending AOC, defending what they call the squad, if they can do that, then that's going to keep his election hopes even more bright, right? So that was the first thing. And so another thing was by him saying out this tweet, it says here, we'll never be a socialist or communist country. That's a very strong message. It echoes what Lindsey Graham said. If you're not happy here, you can leave. Now, this is what people are calling a racist comment. Okay, he's not naming any names, but he's putting messaging in there that obviously we know who he's talking about. In fact, in this press conference later on, he actually acknowledged who he's talking to. These are people who are in this country, who do not like this country, who are campaigning against this country, and he's saying, look, if you don't like being here, then why are you here? Just leave. Okay. And he said, it's their choice alone. And he said, it's about our love for America, and certain people hate our country. So what he's doing is he's reminding everybody who these people are. And these people are AOC out of New York, it's Omar out of Minnesota, it's Ayanna Pressley out of Massachusetts, and it's Rashid Tlaib out of Michigan. These are 4 congresswomen, they like to call themselves women of color, that have been on record anti-Jew, anti-America, hate everything about what we're trying to do. Many of them came from countries that were totally in bad shape, and yet they come here and they want to complain about it. I'll get on that a little bit later. But, well, no, let's get on now. So that's kind of my next point here. So number 1 was to remind them what's going on, and then to do that. This is all within the first step of this 6. Basically saying, the first step, again, let's recap, was that as Nancy Pelosi is trying to move the party away from the socialist fringe, that's the first step. But what Trump did by putting this tweet out there, it basically reminded people that of who these people are, that you have Omar here, I'm bringing this up here, she said this thing about, the controversy about some people in 9/11, and then you have AOC who lost the 20,000 jobs in New York because of her Amazon tirade. And so Trump is basically reminding everybody of what is going on here. And so I also mentioned the fact that these people come from these countries, like several of these, like Omar and so forth, that they come here, they trash the country, and then they want to just be ungrateful for what they have here. And part of reminding people about that is really about getting people on the side of common sense and reason. That's what Trump is trying to do. And so let's go into this. And so the second point to what's going on after Pelosi does it. So Trump's retaliation, or his step to that, is to attack the fringe. So he goes after this, what they call the squad, these 4 congresswomen. Okay? By attacking them, Trump knows that he can easily manipulate anybody in Democrat by simply taking a position. They will always move to the left of that. So Trump can move the Democrats any way he wants just by taking a position. And so he knows this. So it wasn't even much of a risk. He said this tweet, putting it out there, and the next thing you know, the fringe gets attacked. And of course, what happens? Nancy Pelosi embraces that fringe, who she was trying to get away from the beginning, and embraces their ideology, which is crazy. So he basically snapped them back to prior to last week, to where now the Democrats are all back on the same page, embracing socialism, embracing the Green New Deal, reparations, Medicaid for all this craziness that just is not going to work. I mentioned that in another video just earlier today. And that was Trump's goal. And it worked. Of course, what's happening now is the racist card is being played out there again. But the reason why this won't play out that much in this case is because by him reminding everybody of what was going on with, with Omar and with the ALC deal and other things they were saying, by reminding people about these common sense things about if you don't like this country, you can leave it, it supersedes the racism charge. See, people who hate Trump anyway are always going to call him a racist regardless. He can put on white socks and he's going to be a racist. So it doesn't really matter what he does. So it's not going to push the needle that much. And so really, it's really about getting people who are independent and thinking on this and see the messaging. Look, immigration is a 70-30 positive issue for Republicans. It's probably even higher than that. But 70% of Americans want to do something about border security and illegal immigration. So as long as the issue stays on immigration in that regard, the Democrats really cannot win that issue. So they're going to have to go back to their identity politics and so forth to try and have some sort of dialogue because they have nothing else to come back on an issue where they're that far behind. Okay, so after she braces the foolery and goes back to the fringe again, President Trump keeps the pressure on, okay? He continues on. He doubles down. So in the press conference, he sends out another tweet. And he actually tells you what he's trying to do in the second tweet. Okay, so in the second tweet he does, let's pull it up right here. Here's the second tweet he did out about 20 minutes later. He said, Dems were trying to distance themselves from the four progressives, but now they are forced to embrace them. That means they are endorsing socialism, hate of Israel, and the USA, not good for the Democrats. See, President Trump is telling us exactly what he's doing and why he did it. He's saying it right here. He's saying that the Dems were trying to distance themselves from the four progressives, which I said earlier, which Nancy Pelosi was trying to move to the right, to the center. Then he says, but now they're being forced to embrace them. Why? Because President Trump put down this tweet here that forced him to, because he knows how to manipulate the Democrats. He can get them going any way he wants, just like the Godfather with that little thing. He can just do what he wants. So whatever he wants to frame, he just takes a position because he knows they can go to the left of it. And whenever you know what your enemy is going to do, when they become predictable, you can totally control them. So by him doing that, then it comes, now that means that they are endorsing socialism. So now they're back into the fray. They have gained nothing. That effort for Nancy Pelosi to try and distance herself from the radical left totally failed now, because now they're forced to embrace it and defend themselves because they have to get at Trump. That's the wrong way of going about doing it. But it is what it is. The Democrats are so hamstrung. They are so tied into this left-wing side of the party, that radical, loud part of the party, that they just can't do anything outside of that. And Trump is manipulating the situation beautifully. This is why this isn't racist. This is why this is not a racist tweet. It's a calculated measure to get the Democrats to do what he wants them to do. He says they're endorsing socialism and they hate Israel and the USA. It's not good for the Democrats. It's right there in the president's tweets. There's no discussion, and we're seeing it play out right now. All right? And then lastly, basically he's keeping the pressure on, and the Democrat Party is continuing the fighting. And, of course, the last step in this measure is that we just keep winning. Okay? So that is what's happening. What do you think about the steps I have in place? What do you think about President Trump doing this tweet? Do you think it was racist? What do you think he could have done better? Or what do you think about his doubling down in the press conference? Because there were some reporters there that were pretty loud and shouting things out. How do you think he handled that? Let me know in the comments below. And you know what? If you like the content on this channel, where I take culture, TV, and movies, and I filter it right, please hit that like and subscribe button and that bell icon so you don't miss any future content. I enjoy doing this, and I look forward to the next time I talk to you. And please, as always, check out some of the videos I have right here above me right now.